What is going on, YouTube? Aaron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day here. We have got a banger for you guys here in today's video. That, of course, is brought to you by the Petropavlovsk, the Russian Tier 8 tech tree heavy cruiser, and this thing is an absolute animal. I believe this is the best cruiser at Tier 8. Now, you can make an argument for any number of different cruisers. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, but the armor profile, the guns, the radar, and just the overall package that this ship provides, I can take this ship out in pretty much any scenario and do fairly well with it. And this game is a perfect example of what we are talking about. We take a good bit of attracted damage from our flank, and actually the enemy makes a pretty good push up the middle. But by holding this position out here on the flank, knowing how to angle and dishing out an appropriate amount of damage, this ship pretty much turns the tide in favor of our team for this particular game. Now, I do want to caution those, sailing at this angle here with the wide turning circle is going to be one of your pitfalls, and we actually pay for it a little bit later on in the game. So you want to make sure you either, reverse kite or angle out early on, or push in. You just want to make sure that you make that decision before you get to kind of caught in the middle here. So we go ahead and make that turn out just a little bit. And with this particular build, we actually have our radar range just as far as our concealment. So we know that if we are detected, whatever is detecting us will be within our radar range. And as you can see there, we went around this corner, we were detected, and there it is, the Z46. But good thing we were prepared there, as we have already started to angle out. Probably not, looking back on it, not as much as I would have liked here, but the salvos there fall short, and one of them overpens our stern. And the armor profile on this ship is just, it's so good. Once you kind of get into full kiting angle here, as we're trying to get as many shots on that Z46 as we can, you are basically invincible. Now, the Russian cruisers and American cruisers really thrive off of their armor piercing. However, in a situation like this, you definitely want to utilize your high explosive. You can see that both the Pommern and the Republik are angled or bow in towards us, so we are not really going to be doing much at all to their superstructure. But knowing that the Pommern is trying to do the typical German brawling battleship thing and push in, we are going to keep the HE loaded, smash a few of his secondaries, also try and knock out his torpedo tubes, as well as just do a little bit of damage to his superstructure like we mentioned, and potentially set a few fires. On top of that, you will note that we are actually also kiting out in this direction. That forces the enemy to do one of two things. Either they can focus us, and that is actually what the carrier is doing right here, as XV-Core managed to depth strike that Z46 sitting in his smokescreen, or those ships can turn broadside and focus the enemies in the center of the map there. But seeing that that carrier was dropping us, we go ahead and decide to turn into his torpedoes, trying to get as skinny as possible. And a good thing about the Petro here is you actually have 360-degree turrets. So by angling out here, we aren't wasting too much time, as I stupidly eat a torpedo there, which causes a flood, unfortunately. Having those 360-degree turrets, though, is a massive bonus, because you can essentially kind of wiggle one way and then wiggle another, and your guns will still be relatively on target. I want you guys to also note our health, right? We have been hit by a carrier torpedo, we've been shot at multiple times, and we are still in the white region of our health, and we have dished out a moderate amount of damage. Now again, the HE on the Russians is not the best, so you really want to use the AP and try and put yourself in the position to get those broadsides. However, in a situation like this, I don't want to extend too far to get their broadsides, and by keeping this position here, we actually have a little bit of a crossfire on the middle. If you will notice on the mini-map, our team, for whatever reason, has decided to just explode in the middle and not really have the best position all kind of grouped up there by the channel. Now, I will give them a little bit, benefit of the doubt here, because Two Brothers is kind of one of those maps where, especially in Capture the Base without those domination points, it's really kind of a free-for-all what you do and where you need to position. So we will give them a pass on that. But by maintaining this position here, like we mentioned, this Pommern is now, he's lost over 75 to 80% of his health, as well as a good bit of his secondaries as well. And that is when you notice we actually went back to shoot the Republik, but we're going to switch to the Pommern because I do believe that he had will to rebuild. There was another salvo, and of course, because of our angle and just how ellipse and aiming works, we only managed to take 15 or 1400 damage there from that Republik due to an overpen of our superstructure. Once again, here's just a good example of target selection. Now, of course, this Republique is pushing in and turning broadside, so we are definitely going to target him. And as soon as he shows enough angle, we are going to switch to the armor piercing. However, that Pommern, as soon as he is once spotted again, and just guessing that he is using Will to Rebuild. Now, of course, he's outside of the range at the moment here, but in order just to get him off the board and get guns off the board, we're just going to go ahead and take that shot. It's kind of a low damage shot there, but we do manage to get a few penetrations either to the bow or probably to the superstructure there, and we managed to get that elimination for our first of many kills in this game. Here's also a good example of shot placement. I aimed that shot honestly just a little bit low, and the Republique is very well armored. So we aimed the next one just a little bit higher and managed to get a lot better penetrations there on the kind of the upper armor belt and the superstructure. Now, one strategy that I didn't really use in this example was aiming at the bow and stern. You can see that a good portion of the middle of that Republique is pretty kind of blacked out per se, and that is to show saturation damage. But there, Mr. Flame in his Minnesota manages to get the elimination, so we now have two hand job ribbons there to our one kill. But with a good amount of positioning and some support from our team as well, we managed to pretty easily wipe that flank and gain control of our side. And that is when we look up and see that our team is doing the classic blue team thing and trying to give us and put us at a disadvantage. And here is honestly a situation that I was talking about earlier. If you are broadside like this, you need to commit to a turn, as we were sort of angling in, and that is when I realized it's a Zeton and a Flander over there, both ships that have kind of longer range, decent secondaries. And the Zeton actually sneaks off a salvo when we were kind of slowly angling out here, and he catches us pretty good. In the meantime, though, we were taking a few salvos, and there it is. That actually might have been from the Atlantico, I'm not sure. But regardless, that despite all of our good positioning and angling earlier, we lose basically half of our health in one shot there, which is why it is so important to angle. But after kind of getting slapped and waking up here, realizing that these enemies might not be the paid actors from my paid actor budget, we are going to kind of fully angle here and stay outside of their secondary range. On top of that, if given the opportunity, we want to switch and hit multiple different targets. As you guys can see, they are actually in our base, as this Atlantico is having a barbecue on his deck. And here's just another good example as well. Once you have a ship on a double or triple fire, go ahead and switch to your AP, right? Let that guy burn and either put out and use his damage con, or just let him continue to burn. Some ships run fight fire with fire, and if you set that third fire, it actually puts it out. So instead of just trying to get greedy with that double or triple fire, now that guy obviously didn't have it. I think he was on fire in 4 places. But when that happens, if that ship has fight fire with fire, just let him burn, with the double fire. So that way you're getting double those ticks, and then switch to the AP and aim for a different region of the ship. And here I want you guys to actually pay attention to the throttle. As we were kind of pressing forward, we're pressing back a little bit, and I know that a few of you have asked me to remove my giant head from streams so you can see the throttle a little bit more clearly, but this was just a recording, not a stream. But by just slightly adjusting your movement and your throttle and kind of angling like this, you put yourself in the middle of the ellipse, and you make yourself a very hard target to hit. Once again, you can see that of the 1 or 2 shells that hit, they actually hit our main armor belt and then bounced. So we received no damage for that battleship, and that's a very frustrating position to be in. Having a ship that reloads every 30 seconds and then, you have a ship trying to counter you like this, it certainly can be very frustrating. But seeing that this Zeton is trying to push into his secondary range, we are going to go ahead and just move out a little bit more. And once again, we're really not taking as much damage as these guys should be dishing out. Now this Flander actually wisens up a little bit. He switched to the HE, and as you can see, the HE is going to do a little bit more damage and cause fires to us, as opposed to just being a stubborn battleship player and continually shooting the AP there. I find it hilarious when battleship mains kind of, they get a little bit mad at a playstyle like this when this is truly the correct playstyle there, as we manage to set both the Zeton and the Flander there on fire and tick the high caliber. And the reason being is I'm playing to my advantages, right? And these guys are not. They are shooting at me, chasing me. They've left the base, right? Now there still is a cruiser in the base, which we can actually see, but they have given me the advantages instead of allowing me to push into them. So it's just, there's a lot to be said in this game about playing to your strengths and weaknesses, and this is a great example of it. Now, I certainly had help from my team. I did not do this solo. XV in the chalk glove there was certainly providing that Flander with a lot of, unwanted attention, I'm sure the Flander would say. But again, it's the principle, right? Putting your ship in the right position and trying to outplay your enemy in that given set of circumstances. And here is actually a great example of it. If you'll notice, that Michelangelo actually had about 75% of the base capped as we managed to get the final salvo for our 4th kill on that Flander there. And yeah, if he would have gotten that base capped, and I wasn't really in position to shoot him, so just a good, counter example of kind of what I was just mentioning there. If those ships would have stayed in the base, I am forced to come to them, and they could have potentially won the game. But now that this guy is kind of out in the open and trapped here, we've got his broadside, and yeah, we're going to go ahead and finish this off for the beautifully well-placed Kraken. Except RNG didn't want to give it to me there. So 4 pens, one of which being a Citadel, kind of on the flat broadside of that Michelangelo. I was a little worried that it was going to get robbed by that battleship on the other side, but with the legendary reload essentially maxed there, we now have a beautiful just machine of destruction here in the Petro with both the legendary and epic mods, the reload and the damage max there. So just a beautiful example of how strong this ship can be. But here was just a fun little game that I wanted to give you guys, just kind of highlighting how strong the Petro can be. And if you haven't started working on the Russian heavies, give them a grind. I'm not going to lie, up to tier 6 even, the Russian heavies are well, the Tallinn is pretty good, but the Russian heavies are pretty difficult to play. It's not really until tier 7, and even then the Riga's accuracy, just sometimes it just has you shaking your head. But the Petro here at tier 8 with a Lightful as a commander, even Kuznetsov, this is just a truly fantastic ship. I really enjoy the Russians. They are just kind of the perfect epitome of what it is meant to be a heavy cruiser, attracting all that damage, dishing out these gnarly shells here. But we're going to go ahead and speed it up to the end as I was trying to blind fire this carrier for the last little remaining bit of this game. But that's going to do it for us. I want you guys to guess my XP total, because once again, we just proved that Capture the Base is honestly the worst game mode. A few defends, 5 kills, 187. I think I managed like 190k maybe. A few Citadels and the Kraken there. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I will see you guys in the next video. I love you guys. Have a great day. I'm out. Peace.